How badly are our schools doing? So, according to this, it was Axios released this story a week ago. The class of 2023 has had the worst ACT performance in more than 3 decades. Nice. The previous record was in 2022, then 2021, then 2020. It's pretty sad. But this is just one measure. Do we have a fundamental systemic crisis in our schools? Well, let's check it out. The NAEP does reading and mathematics checks every single year. And well, there's the data on 2023, and it's freaking staggering. In my opinion, the most important grade periods, the most important grades are 6th through 8th grade. Those are the formative years. Those are the beginning of the teenage years when you go from being a child to being a teenager. That's what happens in middle school. And these 13-year-olds, damn, they're suffering. There are two trends I want you to notice. The first trend is either a stagnation or a slight reduction between 2012 and 2020 scores. And then the next one being the sharp decline from 2020 to 2023. And remember, at least this one is average. We're going to see a few more here. So in reading, we have the slow drop off and then the big drop off. Same thing in mathematics. And with the change being more obvious in mathematics because children generally do not like math. Understandable. But what about long-term reading scores at different percentiles? So this is looking at the same group of students, just at different levels. The 90th percentile, 75th, 50th, 25th, and 10th. And so what we see again is the same trend from 2012 to 2020, small decrease, and then 2020 to 2023, sharper decrease. What about math scores? Same thing, but worse. There is stagnation here, but 7-point drop off, 6-point drop off, 8-point drop off, 11 and 15. As you can see, as the students get lower in the percentile, there is a more dramatic decrease in their scores. But like I said, it gets worse. So this is broken down between race and ethnicity. And once again, on the left you have reading, on the right you have mathematics. So in these, not all of the data is there for 2012, but you still see the drop off from 2020 to 2023. Alaska Natives, American Indians, drop off. Asians and blacks, same thing, drop off, drop off, drop off, drop off. The only group that does not see a drop off, the only slight increase that I have found here is Hispanic kids' reading scores. There is a very slight increase, but then it drops off to levels before 2012. And then math scores, we see a big drop off here, 2 or more mixed races or 2 or more races. Once again, the same thing. And even the white kids drop off in reading, more dramatic drop off in mathematics. So this is happening to everyone. They're all suffering. Actually, one of the other increases has been how often and for how much longer kids have been absent from schools. In 2020, 84% of kids were not absent or had 2 days, 1 and 2 days of absence in a month in school. But it's gone down to 75%. But the amount of kids being absent for three or 4 days or 5 or more days has gone up. In fact, it's doubled for the kids who have been absent for 5 or more days. Once again, this is a travesty. Everything is terrible here. How often do kids read for fun? 2012, I'm just going to look at almost every day because it was at 27% and now it's at 14%. There's been a reduction by half. And why is reading important? Because if you are a reader, if you are a good reader, you are more likely to perform well, to be a high performing student. We've known that correlation forever. It's freaking obvious. But it's not happening. So why is this happening? Well, I can tell you why this is not happening. Yes, COVID was a problem, but the funding for COVID was not a problem. Funding has been going up for schools since 2013. And in fact, if you look very closely, you see a sharper increase in 2020, 2021, and 2022. You see this again here. especially by the federal government in 2020. You see a market increase in the amount of money spent. And most of that money has been spent on instruction. Look again, the increase from 2021 to 2022. So what the heck is going on here? There's three things. One, yes, COVID destabilized pretty much everyone. You can say there was a loss of at least 1 year of instruction for students. And the second problem is cell phones. Anyone who's been a teacher in the past few years knows that cell phone use is the most annoying thing in the world. Absolutely. These kids are dying to use it. They look like freaking coke fiends waiting for their next fix. And I don't understand the parents who just support this like it's a religion or something, that kids must have their cell phones. Okay, yeah, you didn't have your cell phone and you survived when you were a kid, so relax. It's gotten to the point where 95% of kids in 2022 have access to a cell phone. That means they either have one or, they can grab their parents whenever they want practically. That's up by that's an increase in 22% in, oh my gosh, 8 years. This is concerning. This is absolutely concerning, even though, it's not really the desktop computer use. It's not the gaming. It's the cell phone usage, because for most people, especially for children, you pretty much have all the power you need from a technological device on your phone. Like all your mobile games are there and everything. So we have the destabilization of the COVID. We have cell phone use becoming a huge problem, and these kids are on their screens for hours and hours and hours a day, 5, 6, 7 hours a day. It's ridiculous. But what's the third reason? Could it be what we're teaching the kids? Could it be that we're teaching kids all about neopronouns and Z's and Zers and all that nonsense, but we're not actually teaching kids how to read? We're not going back to the classics. We're not pushing these kids to read books that are at a higher reading level. We're not even encouraging to read, as we can look by the freaking reading scores. Like, this is a freaking disaster. Like, how can you say that schools are doing a good job when in less than 12 years, the amount of kids who read for fun has been just slashed by half? Like, you cannot make that argument. Schools are doing a horrendous, terrible job. And this just means that increasing the funding doesn't help. So maybe we need to stop teaching this ideology, because I guarantee if this continues, and it will continue, our scores are only going to get worse. Instead of teaching how to read and write, we're teaching how to accept other people's freaking delusions. I wouldn't have as much of a problem with this woke ideology if, let's just pretend for a second, that if children wholeheartedly accepted that men can be women, that their IQs jumped by 30 points, that their grades skyrocketed, that the United States eventually started climbing up the ranks and started becoming one of the better countries when it comes to education, and that all of this would lead to brand new technologies. We would cure cancer. We would solve global climate change with fusion or nuclear power. We would eventually build warp drives, and this would lead to a better tomorrow because we would have discovered this new facet of humanity, and it would just make us much more intelligent. Teaching kids this sort of ideology doesn't get you that. It gets you the opposite. You end up with lazy, illiterate kids who can't do math because it's racist, who think that Cleopatra was black and that science needs the words "the" in front of it. This doesn't solve the problem. In fact, it just makes our kids more retarded. Can we stop making our kids retarded?